It's the 19th of March, 1997. The tarmac at Samarinda Airport, East Kalimantan, Indonesia. A Bell 206 Jet Ranger helicopter idles on the pad, rotors spinning. Michael de Guzman walks toward it carrying a small bag. He's the chief geologist for Bre-X Minerals, a Canadian mining company. He's supposed to fly 170 kilometers northeast to the Busong gold site. He boards. The door closes. At 7:16 a.m., the helicopter lifts off. 4 minutes into the flight, the pilot radios back. De Guzman is gone. The door is open. The pilot circles, searching the canopy below, then returns to base. A search team deploys into the jungle. 4 days later, on March 23, they find a body in the undergrowth near the village of Muara Angkalong. The Indonesian authorities identify it as Michael de Guzman based on fingerprints and personal effects. The body is badly decomposed, accelerated by heat, humidity, and scavengers. The face is unrecognizable. The hands and feet are missing. The official cause of death, suicide. De Guzman, they say, jumped from the helicopter at 800 feet. The door had been opened mid-flight. No struggle, no evidence of foul play. The pilot's statement is clean. The Indonesian police closed the case within 72 hours. Bre-X releases a statement expressing shock and grief. The stock price drops 18% in a single day, then stabilizes. The company schedules a memorial service in Calgary. But 6 days later, on March 25, Freeport-McMoRan, the American mining giant brought in to verify Busong's gold reserves, releases its preliminary drilling results. The gold isn't there. The core samples show trace amounts consistent with natural background levels. Not 71 million ounces, not $25 billion worth, trace. The samples that Bre-X has submitted for assay over 3 years, samples that had been independently tested and verified by laboratories in Australia, Canada, and Indonesia, had been salted. Someone had added gold dust to the drill cores before they were sent for testing. The entire deposit was a fabrication. The question stops being how Michael de Guzman died. It becomes, what would the autopsy have shown? Because there was no full autopsy. The body was cremated in Jakarta on March 28, 5 days after discovery, before Canadian authorities could intervene. The Indonesian coroner's report lists the cause of death as massive injuries consistent with a fall from height. But the body had no blood. The internal organs were liquefied. The decomposition was described as weeks old, not 4 days. And the fingerprints used to confirm identity were taken from hands that were later reported missing. Freeport-McMoRan's drilling continues through April. By May, the conclusion is final. There is no gold at Busong. Never was. Bre-X stock, which had traded at $280.50 per share in May 1996, falls to $0.07 by May 1997. Market capitalization dropped from $6.2 billion to $4.3 million. 165,000 investors lose everything. The Toronto Stock Exchange suspends trading. The Ontario Securities Commission opens an investigation. And Michael de Guzman's body is ash. The helicopter took off at 7:16 a.m. on the 19th of March 1997. 4 minutes later, the door was open. That's the part everyone agrees on. Everything after that is a question of what you're willing to believe about a body that disappeared before anyone could ask it the right questions. It's August 1993. David Walsh is sitting in a rented office above a strip mall in Calgary. The company is called Bre-X Minerals. The stock trades at 14 cents Canadian. Walsh has $10,000 in the bank and a geological report from Indonesia that mentions anomalous gold readings in a place called Busong in the interior of Borneo. He has no drill rig, no permit, no geologist on staff. What he does have is Michael de Guzman. De Guzman is a Filipino geologist who worked for the Indonesian state mining company before going freelance. He's 41, he speaks Bahasa Indonesia, he knows how to move through the permit system in Jakarta, and he knows the jungle. In October 1993, Walsh wires him $80,000 to secure the Busong concession and begin preliminary drilling. De Guzman hires a local contractor with a small rotary drill. The site is a 4-hour boat ride upriver from Samarinda, then a 2-hour hike into primary rainforest. There is no road. The drill crew sleeps in tents. The lab is a plywood shed with a diesel generator and a rock crusher. The first core samples come up in November. De Guzman sends them to an independent assay lab in Jakarta. The results come back, 2.3 grams of gold per ton. That's marginal profitable if the deposit is large, but not exceptional. Walsh files the report with the Alberta Securities Commission and the stock moves to 31 cents. He raises $4.5 million in a private placement and sends it to Borneo. De Guzman expands the drill program. By March 1994, they've completed 11 holes. The average grade is climbing 4.1 grams per ton. The inferred resource estimate is 2 million ounces. Bre-X is now trading at $2.80. Then the numbers change. In May 1995, de Guzman files an updated resource estimate, 30 million ounces. The grade has jumped to 8.9 grams per ton. The stock hits $50. In July, he revises again, 40 million ounces. In November, 70 million ounces. Every new batch of cores shows gold. not scattered traces, consistent, high-grade mineralization across a strike length of 4 kilometers. By February 1997, the official estimate is 200 million ounces, worth $71 billion at spot price. Bre-X is valued at $6.2 billion. It is the largest gold discovery in human history. Here's what was happening at the field lab. The drill cores come up in 3-meter sections, encased in plastic sleeves. Standard protocol is to split the core lengthwise with a diamond saw, send half to an independent lab, and keep half for reference. De Guzman's crew is not splitting the cores. They are crushing them whole in the shed. The crusher is a jaw-milled 2 steel plates that pulverize rock into powder. After crushing, the powder is weighed, bagged, and shipped to the assay lab in Jakarta. The lab tests for gold using fire assay. The powder is melted in a crucible with lead oxide. The lead absorbs the gold, the lead is oxidized away, and what's left is a bead of pure gold, which is weighed. The process is accurate to within 0.01 grams per ton. The problem is that the lab has no idea what was in the original core. De Guzman is buying alluvial gold from local miners. Alluvial gold is surface gold flakes and nuggets panned from rivers. It's pure. It's also untraceable once it's crushed. At the Busong lab, before the cores go into the crusher, De Guzman's assistant, a man named Cesar Puspos, is adding gold shavings to the rock. Not much. Between 0.5 and 2 grams per sample. Just enough to move the assay results from marginal to world class. The cost of the gold is negligible. A few $100s per drill hole. The return is $6 billion in market capitalization. No one checks the math until March 1997. Freeport-McMoRan is an American mining company based in New Orleans. They've agreed to partner with Bre-X to develop Busong in exchange for a 15% stake and operational control. Freeport's due diligence team arrives in Samarinda on March 8th. They bring their own drill rig. They re-drill 4 of Bre-X's highest grade holes and send the cores to their own lab in Jakarta, not the one De Guzman has been using. The results come back on March 19th. Hole 1, 0.01 grams per ton. Hole 2, 0 grams per ton. Hole 3, trace. Hole 4, nothing. Freeport's geologist calculates that the actual gold content at Busong is approximately 2,000 ounces, not 200 million. The difference is $6 billion. On the morning of March 19th, Michael De Guzman boards a helicopter in Samarinda. He is scheduled to meet the Freeport team at the Busong site. 4 minutes after takeoff, he opens the door and steps out at 800 feet. His body is found 6 days later in the jungle canopy, identified by fingerprints. The gold is gone. By January 1996, Bre-X Minerals is trading at $2.50 a share on the Alberta Stock Exchange. The Busong site in East Kalimantan has reported 30 million ounces of gold. John Felderhoff, the chief geologist, is filing updated resource estimates every 6 weeks. Each one is larger than the last. The mechanism is simple. Every 2 months, Michael De Guzman's team drills core samples from the jungle floor. The core cylinders of rock and sediment are logged in a plywood shack with no air conditioning and no witnesses. De Guzman's staff crushes the samples, weighs them, and sends the pulverized material to an independent lab in Balikpapan for assay. The lab tests for gold content and returns a report. Bre-X takes that report, multiplies the grams per ton by the estimated volume of the deposit, and publishes a press release in Calgary. The stock moves. By May 1996, the estimate is 40 million ounces. By July, 47 million. In October, Felderhoff announces 57 million ounces, making Busong the largest gold discovery of the century. Bre-X's market capitalization crosses $4 billion Canadian. The Toronto Stock Exchange promotes it from the venture board to the main index. It is now listed alongside Barrick Gold, Placer Dome, and Inco. Institutional investors, pension funds, mutual funds, insurance portfolios begin buying. No one has audited the physical cores. The samples are stored in wooden crates in the jungle, exposed to humidity and heat. The independent lab in Balikpapan tests only what De Guzman's team sends. There is no chain of custody protocol. There is no duplicate sampling. There is no third-party geologist on site. The entire valuation rests on assay reports typed on a manual typewriter in a shack with a corrugated tin roof. In November 1996, Barrick Gold approaches Bre-X with a partnership offer. Barrick is the largest gold producer in the world, with operations in Nevada, Chile, and Papua New Guinea. Its chairman is Peter Monk, who has personal access to the Indonesian president, Suharto. Barrick offers to buy a controlling stake in Busong and handle the mine development. The offer values Bre-X at $5.4 billion. David Walsh, Bre-X's founder, declines. He believes the deposit is worth more. He hires a Canadian law firm to negotiate directly with the Indonesian government for a mining permit. Suharto's government is interested, but only if Bre-X partners with a local firm. The government suggests Freeport-McMoRan, an American mining company that already operates the Grasberg mine in Papua. Freeport has infrastructure, political relationships, and capital. Walsh agrees. On the 17th of February 1997, Bre-X announces a joint venture with Freeport-McMoRan. Bre-X will retain 45% of Busong. Freeport will take 15% and manage the mine construction. The Indonesian government takes 10%. A group of Indonesian business partners connected to Suharto's family takes 30%. The stock hits $286.50 split adjusted. Market cap $6.2 billion Canadian. Freeport immediately sends its own geologists to Busong. They request access to the drill cores. De Guzman provides a selection. Freeport takes the cores to its own lab in Jakarta and runs independent assays. On the 9th of March 1997, Freeport's preliminary results show gold concentrations far below Bre-X's published figures. Some samples contain no gold at all. Freeport requests a meeting with de Guzman to review the drilling logs. The meeting is scheduled for the 19th of March 1997 in Balikpapan. On March 18, de Guzman is in Samarinda, the capital of East Kalimantan. He checks into the Mesra Hotel. Next morning, he boards a helicopter to Busong. Freeport's geologists are waiting at the site. The helicopter takes off at 7:12 a.m. 4 minutes later, the pilot reports that the rear door is open and de Guzman is gone. The 26th of March 1997. 7 days after Michael de Guzman's body was found in the jungle, Freeport McMoran releases a 2-page preliminary report. The findings are described as insignificant amounts of gold, not lower than expected, not disappointing, insignificant. Freeport had drilled their own holes, sent their own samples to their own labs. The results came back showing trace amounts, the kind of gold you'd find in any random patch of Indonesian rainforest. Busong wasn't a marginal deposit. It wasn't a miscalculation. It was nothing. Within hours, Bre-X requests a trading halt on the Toronto Stock Exchange. The stock is frozen at $2.50 Canadian. It had been $286.50 exactly 1 year earlier. David Walsh issues a statement from his home in the Bahamas. He says Freeport's drilling methodology may be flawed. He says Bre-X stands by its resource estimate. He says the company is commissioning an independent audit. That audit is assigned to Strathcona Mineral Services, a consulting firm in Toronto. They're given access to everything: the drill core stored in Samarinda, the assay certificates, the lab records, the field logs kept by de Guzman's team. Strathcona begins reassaying the archived core samples. They use a method called duplicate sampling, taking splits from the same intervals Bre-X had tested, running them through independent labs. The results come back in early May. Strathcona finds gold, but only in the Bre-X samples. The duplicate splits, taken from the same core, show nothing. The gold isn't distributed through the rock, it's sitting on the surface. Strathcona's lead geologist examines the samples under a microscope. He finds gold grains that are rounded and smooth, alluvial gold, the kind you pan from rivers. Not angular, fractured hard rock gold from a vein deposit. Someone had taken river gold, crushed it into dust, and mixed it into the samples. The term for this is salting. On the 4th of May 1997, Strathcona releases its full report. The conclusion is unambiguous. The Busong deposit is without economic gold. The due diligence program encountered falsified assay results and evidence of systematic salting. Bre-X is delisted from the Toronto Stock Exchange on May 14. The stock is valued at $0. The company files for bankruptcy protection in Canada and the United States. $6 billion in market capitalization is gone. Pension funds, mutual funds, retail investors, all holding worthless paper. The Ontario Securities Commission opens an investigation. So does the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So does the Indonesian government. But here's what doesn't happen. No one is charged. David Walsh remains in the Bahamas. He maintains he was deceived by his own geologist. He says he trusted de Guzman. He says he never profited. He sold no shares, took no dividends. This is not true. Walsh sold $32 million in Bre-X stock between 1,995 and 1,997. But the sales were executed through options and private placements, structured in ways that made them difficult to classify as insider trading under Canadian law at the time. John Felderhoff, the geologist who hired de Guzman, is charged with insider trading by the Ontario Securities Commission in 1999. The trial lasts 8 years. In 2007, he is acquitted. The judge rules that the prosecution failed to prove Felderhoff knew the samples were salted. Michael de Guzman's death is officially ruled a suicide by Indonesian authorities. No autopsy is performed in Indonesia. The body is too decomposed. A Canadian forensic team later examines the remains and confirms the identity through dental records, but cannot determine cause of death. Some investigators believe de Guzman jumped, others believe he was pushed. The helicopter pilot is never interviewed under oath. David Walsh dies of a brain aneurysm on the 4th of June 1998 in the Bahamas. He is 52 years old. He never returns to Canada. The loophole was this: you could tell investors there was gold in the ground, file reports, raise billions, and as long as no regulator independently verified the rocks, the claim stood. Canada had no law requiring independent audits of foreign mineral projects. Indonesia had no enforcement mechanism for securities fraud involving Canadian shell companies. The samples sat in a warehouse in Samarinda. The labs were in Jakarta and Perth. The investors were in Toronto and New York. The jurisdiction was nowhere. Bre-X changed that. After Busong, Canada introduced National Instrument 43 to 101, requiring independent qualified persons to verify all mineral resource estimates. But the rule was written after the collapse. For everyone who bought Bre-X before May 1997, the mechanism was already gone.